Monster Truck Radio, presented by E3 Spark Plugs and AmeriGas, is back with you here as we talk to the Monster Truck World Speed Record holding team of Randy Moore and Kirk Dabney here tonight on the show. Boy, it's been a great night already here, and we're getting ready to talk to Kirk Dabney, and he is on the line right now. Kirk, it is just a pleasure to have you on Monster Truck Radio for the first time here tonight. We've been wanting to get you on here for a long time, and we really appreciate you doing the show with us here tonight.
Hey, I appreciate you guys' interest in our world's fastest monster truck.
Well, that's the big story, Kirk. It's got to be so exciting because it's kind of like we were talking about with Randy there. You guys were both kind of competing for this thing, and then you kind of all, you guys, Dan Rente with Bigfoot, it was like a three-way battle, and then all of a sudden you teamed up, and then you just blew the record away. So it had to feel pretty good there in Charlotte when you guys got it done.
It absolutely did, and I guess I'm going to have to take credit for putting me and Randy together because there was a time when we were competing, and I really looked to Randy to compete against and kind of build this interest in the speed record monster trucks. And when I first contacted him 2 or 3 years, maybe longer ago, when he was the record holder at the time with his War Wizard, he was really kind of like, I'm not really sure who you are, dude, but call me back when I got more time. And we've just really, over the years, we've become better and better friends, and it's really enjoyable being around him. He's quite a personality. I'm really glad that I kind of pushed the door open there to get me and Randy together, and he's brought a lot of good to, of course, my career's been a really long career, but at the same time, I needed the new people involved in it to keep that, on the cutting edge, and that's what Randy brings to us.
Well, definitely. He definitely does, and you guys together is quite the formidable team. This is one of the questions I asked Randy, and I'd be curious to kind of get your thoughts on it. At what point did you kind of decide, and I think your answer is almost going to be as interesting, if not more so, because you've been monster trucking for 30 years now, and when did you decide that you wanted to be the one to hold the world speed record for fastest monster truck? When did that goal kind of come about for you?
Well, you're right. I have been doing this business for a long time. I think my first year was 1984, very early in the monster truck days. And the idea to try to set land speed records with the truck came about as we were building the new maximum overkill after we had sold off the Extreme overkill to Paul Stender and basically went with a Patrick design truck for our car crushing. We were always behind the scenes kind of tweaking and evolving the replacement to the swing arm truck. Marty Garza was there helping me with design work, and we really were going to use this truck in the Pro MT, I believe, years ago was the plan. And we built it kind of light for that kind of long course racing that was there. And as we got it into the finishing stages, into testing, of course, Pro MT didn't end up lasting long enough for us to participate. And during testing, I was out testing it one time, and I was just goofing around, and I said, let's just see what this thing is capable of. And I went faster than I'd ever been in a monster truck for high speed, and I came back in and said, I believe this thing has the longest legs I've ever drove a truck. And the idea from there was just kind of, we tripped into it. I'd already been aware of what Randy was doing and just kind of knew that was something that would be neat for me in my category of, that I could do late in my career. And Overkill just kind of showed all the signs of having that ability, and I just kind of pushed it to that direction and really didn't pursue the car crushing end of it very much. There was a time when I was crushing cars with it and practicing for speed runs, and I just kept wrecking it and realizing that we weren't going to be able to keep this thing pristine for the speed runs without, pulling it out of the car crushing. And, it had its last car crush, it almost burnt to the ground in typical Overkill fashion. And it seems to be the legacy of Overkill. And Randy's certainly continuing that. And from then on, it's been just totally dedicating. I'm fortunate enough to just hold the truck back for nothing but the speed runs. And I knew that Randy would bring a dimension to the team that would allow us to get this truck into the circles it needed to be in. And it's an ongoing battle. We're not there yet, but I see a lot of promise, and I've made an awfully good friend along the way, so that part of it's been real enjoyable.
Well, that's one of the great stories of monster trucks. There's always some great people out there, and you and Randy are definitely both fitting into that group. But what's interesting is you actually had taken the record on your own with Overkill, kind of when Bigfoot was going back and forth with you guys. And I'm just curious what that was like for those few months there when you were holding it on your own. That had to be just one heck of an accomplishment when you guys went down there and picked up the record in Overkill with you driving.
It was definitely a highlight of the later parts of my career that supplied the adrenaline that definitely kept me motivated. I think a lot of people might underestimate, it does seem to be a simple task to get these machines to just, with the incredible capabilities of today's monster truck, it seems kind of mundane to just run it on flat ground, but it's a whole nother demand on the machine and the driver to really have control of that thing. When it's clipping, that fast, you can really lose it quick, and it was absolutely, I felt like an accomplishment with it, and if my young partner, I'll call him, old Pop might step back in it and take the record back from him for a little while. You never know.
Now, we talked about it just a little bit with Randy earlier. Now, I'm understanding that we're looking at a two-truck team with you guys and filling the hauler up with a second truck for the Monster Jam season come 2013. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that? We understand it's a concussion chassis, but that's about where we are.
Well, I think in the traditional monster truck business, that you want to stay in the mainstream, you don't want to detach yourself to where you're not part of. I think for the speed truck to be recognized and respected, that we still have to be player. For me, Randy was always still mainstream. That's one of the interests there, was to keep myself involved in the A markets out there. And it was just a natural thing for us to say, hey, the best thing we could do is what the normal is in the business, and that would be to do a second car crusher. And really, I have machines here, but, as I became up to speed, I realized, this new level of competition is just going to require a whole new machine. And that's when we got with Rich Inman over there. And, I wanted to fulfill my commitment to Randy, because early on we had a game plan of 2 speed trucks, 2 crush trucks. And we kind of, make that work where we can. But the teaming up of the new truck is something that I think is just the way you would go about staying in the business. Of course, the double team's really the only way to stay profitable.
So now, will you be driving this new truck, or where do you stand?
Well, it's not out of the question. Part of me says, I'd love to be out there competing and have another go at the bigger markets, and then there's a part of reasonableness with I have a lot of responsibility with my off-road centers and my other business ventures, and I don't want to, have a half-hearted effort at it. So I think that's just going to be something time allows us to sort out. I'm going to go back. I haven't really even ran the car crushers as far as even in the small markets that much lately, but we're going to bring out one of the trucks that we recovered from our South American recovery, and I think everybody will be surprised. It's the Sin City monster truck of Darren Cox's. I'm now the manager of that truck, and I'm going to be running it this summer, so I'll be doing some crushing, and let's just see where the fire burns. I won't rule it out, but I certainly won't step in the way of making sure the truck lives up to what is needed to happen.
Kind of interesting to see the old Sin City Crusher, a former Randy Moore chassis, kind of work its way back into the team in a certain sense.
Yeah, it is a very unusual, how ironic out of all the things, the roads that lead down, for that truck to end up back under my direction, and there'll be a time when Darren will take over the helm and it'll be a West Coast truck, but we were hurt pretty bad down there in that South American deal, and we're still trying to straighten out all of the things that are the final, conclusion to that. And in the meantime, this truck has been in my possession for about a half a year, and we've brought it in and went through the whole thing, and it'll be neat. Seems like a real neat truck.
So now, as you guys have been really raising the bar on this speed deal, we've seen some action on the distance jump world record. And do you see competition increasing on this speed run? And how fast do you guys think you can do? We were talking with Randy about how you guys are really emphasizing keeping the truck pretty true to true monster truck form and keeping planetaries and all kinds of standard monster truck equipment on there. But what's the competition look like, and how fast can you guys go?
Well, to address the legitimate monster truck, I think that it truly needs to be a competition style truck that is capable of competing, just so that you legitimately hold a monster truck record. I'm not an expert in defining what the criteria should be if you are the world's fastest monster truck, but I would think that you have to be recognized as a truck that could compete in competition. And Overkill was an outstanding car crusher, and it probably had a lot of potential to do groom course racing. It's got a lot of innovation in it. It's a budget truck compared to the megabuck trucks that are out there, but it had a lot of thought put into its design. And I think that the ability to unleash its ability is not only that it has the gearing and the attributes to break the 100-mile-an-hour barrier. It has a lot of things that make it great for high-speed groom course racing. I imagine this truck would really be impressive if it was to be ran in a pro MT environment, because it has this smoothness to it at 60 plus. This truck just turns on at 60 miles an hour, and it's just really unusual with a truck that when you think of the monster trucks, that's when it really comes alive.
Well, it's interesting to see, Kirk, because I know that for a while there, when you guys first kind of brought that Maximum Overkill truck out on that real unique chassis with all those ideas, everyone was real excited to see it race. And for a while there, it kind of seemed like we had that potential with the whole Major League of Monster Trucks, and then that didn't work out. But I imagine if there was a race series ever come together, that thing would be pretty tough to contend with.
Well, it might be the cutting edge of a truck that would evolve off of it, And I've always had hopes that the sport will always grow in different directions. I'm a firm believer in that, we don't really know. We can see what's current and popular and how big the sport's become. It'd be great if we had other venues of what we do with these machines. I have the utmost respect for what they're doing, but in pure high-speed competition, groom course racing, I think that's a legitimate way to race these things. I think our design would lead us to a truck that might evolve, a truck that is enormously light, that leaves a very light footprint there, and there's just so little direction there. It'd be neat to have a real competitive edge, but the sport will have to just make that available to us. Right now, the speed racing is a way of putting us in an environment where the truck has its strongest capabilities. I believe, I won't be surprised if we go over 110 miles an hour with it in the near future.
Now, throughout your career, your long career, you've been known as really an innovator. In the last several years, or in the last couple years, we've had the development of the Monster Truck Museum and Hall of Fame. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think of all this?
Jeff Cook was a guy that he's the engine that makes all that run, I believe, up there. And Jeff Cook was a kid that I met when he was 14, 15 years old. and he got his start driving for me. His dad was painting my trucks, so I couldn't think of a better guy, knowing Jeff the way I do, with his pure desire to see the early stuff kind of be represented, and I think it's fitting for the sport. You know, the sport is very legitimized, and I think it's out of the area of just a freak show or a vehicle that might not be recognized as pure race car. I believe that we're recognized as a pure race motorsports, and I think just like land speed record vehicles and Hall of Fames and monster truck museums are all part of motorsports, and I think that it's only fitting that the monster truck industry has that, and I think it's great that Jeff put that energy into it. I'd love to think that the sport remembers me well. You know, it's been awful good to me.
Just as you mentioned there, with your history of innovation and everything that you've been involved in the sport, we've got to think that your chances of getting in the Hall of Fame are going to be pretty good here in the future. What would that mean to you?
It would definitely be the icing on the cake. You know, that would be something that I would definitely relish and think that obviously I had never considered that would be something that would be possible. And I guess one of the things you look back, the monster truck industry is so competitive, and there's been so many superstars and great people. Where I fall into it is definitely of interest to me, but the fact that sometimes just having a long career is the accomplishment. I would love to have done more and better things looking back. I think we all look that way, but I'm very content with what's been accomplished, and I think there's a place for us old guys out there with your understanding that, you know, in the future of sports that are like our monster truck is, there'll be team owners and you know, it'll be a business that's being ran by a group of people, and I think that's where me and Randy, you know, really look to each other. Is it's harder than just one guy can do, and you know, if you find the right partner and you can benefit, you know, we try to figure out the financial, the mechanical, and all the things that a lot of thinking power, and you combine resources, and you know, I hope that I look back and I even do more in my career. I hope that 100-mile-an-hour record is something that we look back and that'll be a big accomplishment.
Well, there's no doubt about that, Kirk, because when that happens, that's just going to be huge for the industry. And, you know, with 35 years, whatever it's been, that's definitely going to be probably one of the biggest accomplishments anyone's been able to pull off in all those years. And, you know, we've got about 10 minutes left here, and we may hold you a little extra if you'll stay with us. But you know, at some point we're going to have you on here for like a full hour just so you can tell us stories from all the years you've been doing stuff. But I'm kind of curious because, you know, if you look at Kirk Dabney, I think one thing that a lot of folks would think about your career is, man, that guy's owned just about every truck that's ever ran at some point or another. And I was wondering if you might take a few minutes to go through some of the trucks you've owned with us, starting from the beginning. And real quick before that, I am a little curious just to what got you interested in monster trucks to begin with?
Well, you know, the career really started in the 80s with the four-wheel drive business, which all of us did back then. And, you know, what's really an accomplishment in the background here at Off-Road Centers that makes me very content is that my brother's been back, and I brought my brother Kevin into Off-Road Centers, which he's extremely brought the level up at Off-Road Centers to, you know, the guy that created the Blue Thunder, that had all of the out-of-the-box thinking that you had to have just to even build a monster truck in the early days, much less a creative one that he had in Blue Thunder. And, you know, he was always out there on the edge with what he created, and I never really understood why we were making them so big until I saw the income and the popularity of crushing cars, and that's really where I took into the Blue Thunder and kind of gave it the finish. I was more of a show truck guy, and it was just something that came natural to me with Blue Thunder, and we had a very good early start. And, you know, we could have maybe made some better decisions and had a lot better success, but through it all, we survived. And, I created a lot of monster truck business out there and got away from the four-wheel drive business other than my personal custom trucks and one-at-a-time customers. But we came full circle, and my off-road centers is a very big piece of the puzzle that runs this whole thing with the speed truck, and my brother's back running it. So it's, I feel very lucky because not a lot of people get a chance to revisit that. And, of course, when you're young, you go through it too fast. We moved on and did other things, and now we're a little bit slower about thinking about what we do nowadays.
Well, that is interesting to see how it's come full circle for you, and that's great that you still work with family and have been able to do that all these years. But so Blue Thunder was the first one. When would you say that kind of achieved monster truck status? What year would you say that was?
84 was the first year that we really brought that out and went to the jamborees with all the guys that went back then, and I think Blue Thunder really was established as one of the monster trucks with the Monster Trucks 2 coverage that established us as a fabricator and a player that, the handful of people that were out there. And I believe in 85 I started touring for, United States Hot Rod Association, and we had some early success. We were really brought into the business in a very big way and did a lot of good things with the truck, but, we struggled early. It could have lasted a lot longer, but we were young, and Blue Thunder was changed into Thunder Beast, and Duraliner Giant came along, and Blue Thunder really probably shouldn't have been put on the sidelines as soon as it was in life. There probably could have been a lot more life in that identity, and if there was some more maturity there with where we were at, we could have probably done a lot more with it, but it was awful good to us. But the aspects of the real tight cockpit and the joystick steering and all the crazy things that were on that truck, really led to me wanting to be in a pickup truck. And Duraliner Giant was born from the parts of Thunder Beast. And, we took Thunder Beast apart, which was Blue Thunder, to build it. My brother had already built Megaforce. And, we both evolved ourselves in the business of touring and sold our Carolina Customs and went our different ways. And he created more of a fair market business, and I went into where when I moved to Indiana, that pretty much changed the direction and teamed up with Steve Hess and Scott Hess and all those guys. I can't tell you how much they did for me in those days. And who would know, we'd move into town barely able to have a place to park and end up buying all the teams in the town. So, and we just really rode Aaron Polburn and the Thunder Nationals and Chris with up there in Canada. All those guys were big players, and we were fortunate to be part of it, and it grew a lot. So we did a lot, and it brought me a lot of good fortune. But one thing about racing, or monster trucks especially, is they're always evolving, and a lot of guys got put on the sidelines that were really, it's amazing to me how many guys just had to fall to the wayside because the sport just grew past it, and I think when I look back, it's amazing to me that I survived so many transitions would be the biggest thing. And Overkill would be there was Nightmare, there was Thunderstruck, their Duraliner Giant turned into the Giant. A lot of people not realize that I bought the Barefoot Racer, and that was my Giant Racer that Scott Hess built for me. And we evolved that into the Nightmare team from Steve. And then when I teamed up with Marty, I think that's where the innovation bug kind of got me, and Marty showed me the side of building stuff different, and I've always believed that that's the only opportunity that the little guy has, is to kind of out-innovate them. And, in the old days, that was everything. When you would see a new big dramatic design change, those were always the kings of the sport, the guys that had the newest stuff. And now it's a little bit more refined. The trucks are, absolutely evolving, but they're basically still based off of that fundamental design, and it's a lot more a tune issue and ability to understand the basic format, but I still would hope that being real creative might create that next Taurus or Equalizer. And if you were around in those days, you know, it's hard to lose that image of what those trucks did to our sport, and always trying to create that environment, you know, and realizing that they were so underestimated and then they ended up dominating. And that's just, to me, that's the ideal situation to be in, and it's just more difficult than ever. And the speed truck allows us to have that fulfilled. We're, you know, I'm not sure what people think they're capable of in trucks, but it'd be neat to see some of the nicest machines out there compete for the speed and see where we stand. And I think land speed trucks are a legitimate motorsports, you know, that it's been around before monster trucks and it's been there since the beginning. And I think anything that goes fast is cool.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. You know, Kirk, there's so many stories in there that, again, we're going to have you on here for a full hour sometime if you join us, because just kind of just to delve into some of that history. But, you know, you mentioned one of those trucks, and it was definitely a favorite of mine growing up, and I know it was of many people, and that was that Duraliner Giant truck. Man, that was just a cool truck. What ended up happening to that one?
Well, you know, Duraliner Giant evolved into the Giant, and I took it out to the West Coast and worked for Seth Dalton. And Seth Dalton was, you know, the premier West Coast promoter that was a big rival of the Bigfoot group. And, you know, he really, when I was really kind of struggling for my identity and to get my life in order, and when I moved out there with Seth for a year, he helped bring the stability to my life and my team that made the Duraliner Giant, which was, you know, basically the Giant with Duraliner on it as we evolved with the Duracon company. And it turned into a very, you know, well-known and a real stout machine that got me in with the Thunder Nationals. And that truck eventually got replaced by the Barefoot Racer truck that Scott Hess eventually, you know, back when being crazy wasn't cool, because Scott was definitely crazy. And, you know, and I saw the leading edge of crazy come into the business, and it was so unwelcomed at the time. It's hard to believe that you could see a business evolve around something that was so looked at as such a, you know, not somewhere we wanted to go. And I was real fortunate to be a real good friend of Scott Hess, just like Randy Moore brings in this later group later in my life, and Randy has a rich background himself, and we have a lot of. It's been a really. I look forward to this chapter of my monster truck career with Randy, because I think we have a lot in common. And Scott Hess at that time was a guy that really showed me, you know, hey, you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you work on these things till dark, and I go tear the crap out of it, and you're going to help me. And when it was all done, Scott, you know, said, Kirk, hey, if you want my Barefoot Racer, we made a deal, and we sold the Duraliner, the big Giant with the scissor bed with the Giant motor, which, you know, at that time you'd keep a truck a decade. And it was passed on to some guys in Kentucky. And, you know, that's one truck that's still out there. I think Jeff Cook can tell you that's one of his trucks in his old school group.
Yep, absolutely. It was so
must
neat
have been
to
well
see
built.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how many miles are on it, but you know, Gary Porter was involved in building the scissor bed, and a lot of neat things happened. And we got into Penda when the racing was big, and that forever changed the competitiveness that I feel monster trucks gave me. And, you know, even though we might not have done as well as could been, I think there was opportunities missed there without a doubt. It was still enough there to make a footprint. And, you know, that's still really what we're chasing, is this extreme overkill, the out-of-the-box cutting-edge truck that upsets so many people. And I think if people were to get up against my new truck and actually see how quick and fast this 9,000, 8,800-pound animal is, you know, it's really fun because it doesn't look anything like anything else out there.
Well, that definitely was always something to watch back in the Penda days. But even before that, you had your hand in some other famous names. I mean, we already talked about Overkill, Giant, but you were part of Nightmare for a while, and if I remember right, that truck even ran a USA One body for a little while.
It did, and Steve Hess and me were real good friends. Not Scott and Steve weren't related, but they were right there in the same town. And I was the little guy that moved into town, and I ended up buying both teams. So, and they went on to other things. Scott's got a lot of success. I think he's up there with Jeff Cook now, messing with the stuff. And it's funny that, the industry still has its strongholds, and I think Scott and Jeff still work together on some things. And talking to Jeff here not too long ago, I don't think we've seen the last of Jeff Cook in the monster truck business.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that'll be fun as that starts to come out a little bit more too. But kind of interesting there too. Everett Jasmer just went into the Hall of Fame there in that first group of things, and that had to be kind of special to run the USA One name, in the Penda series there. Those few times you did.
It was. I really felt at the time that it was an enormous offering. Of course, I've had a lot of things for a small team that I felt real fortunate, and I think Everett would be a great example of who knows what could have been, and I think that's the way all motorsports are. It's not really a bad or a good, but, the USA One probably should have went a lot further than it did, even our involvement in it, but you look back, and it was something that at its time, it was definitely something I was proud to do. It's something I wish we could have done better at, and, I'm sure that all motorsports are that way where you look back, that USA One's got to be, a historically very mixed bag there because it just, it basically stopped its perpetual motion when it didn't really have to, and I think that's an example. That's how you learn to survive this sport, is realizing that just being in it as long as I have, sometimes that's the success. It's not necessarily dominance, becoming rich, all of the things that you want in your business to happen and be true, and then you realize, well, you know what, I outlasted everybody. I might not have beat them all, but dadgummit, I'm still here, and and we're not done yet. And Overkill breeds a lot of that desire to Overkill's a truck that when I look at it, I don't look at it as trying to make my money back. I try to think of it as the passion and the things that we did when we built these trucks in our early days. We were obsessed with building them. I think it's the motivation that created monster trucks. There's no logical reason to do it, but we did it anyway.
Boy,
and now the business is big business. You really don't have to understand where we're from to go where they got to go, the new guys, but I think it's great that people remember it. And I don't want to be a guy that looks at the new guys and wish that I would have lived at a different era, because I don't. I really enjoyed all those old crazy days, and I think the new guys got their time is here, but I don't think we should look back. They're just blessed with such incredible equipment, that we just didn't have. And it just was a different business back then. So, I got to say that I'm interested to see where the business goes, and you never know. Maybe the old guys will actually still, you look at Dennis and you realize what an incredible person to be so dominant so long in his career, because Dennis was a kid. Me and him were both kids together when this all started. I got pictures of Dennis when nobody ever really knew him, and we hung out all the time, and who would ever see what he's become? It's just incredible.
Well, Kirk, it's been, I think you said 84, so probably 28 years now. So that means a pretty special 30th anniversary coming up here pretty soon for you. Feld's not using that Blue Thunder name anymore, and I really think, a car body would look pretty good on one of those new style trucks. What do you think about a 30th anniversary return of Blue Thunder?
Hey, I've got the car body guy in my arsenal. Randy definitely is used to low roof lines with very low windshields, so I can't see how a nostalgic Blue Thunder would hurt us. Hey, you know what? We'll have to think about that, but I did realize that the Blue Thunder was probably, there's the business opportunity that when you look back, you're like, I should have trademarked Blue Thunder. That would have been the most valuable thing I could have ever had. And maybe there'll be some more involvement there in the things that we do in the future. It's real hard to say, but I know the immediate future, we hope to bring Overkill out with a new engine, courtesy of Randy, because Randy ruined the old one. And I've got the truck going down to the bare chassis. I would say Overkill probably holds the record in being bare chassis more times than any. We've refitted that truck. I think it's still new in my eyes, but the reality is the truck's a rather old truck. We built it a long time ago, but it's almost a test truck, that would serve as if the sport went into money racing and long groom course racing, we would have a lot of knowledge in our team to build the machine that would probably let a lot of people look and go, my goodness, boy, I never really thought about doing it that way.
Well, fans, it's been so much fun listening to Kirk here, and we're definitely going to have to get with him and try to get him on here again for a more in-depth interview sometime, because, we talked about all these famous names, we didn't even mention the Monster Patrol era and all that good stuff. So,
yeah, Kirk, that was a great era, and Paul Schaefer was a great buddy, and we're still friends to this day, and there's another whole story in there and opportunities in the business of trucks, but when you get down to all of the business of monster trucks, the love of trucks is what keeps people buying my parts at my stores and keeps people building these custom machines. And I think it's what drives the monster truck business, is that we're, a creative breed by nature. And I think it's great that, I've been able to be a part of it so long. And I hope that I still have some involvement with it in the future. And, you never know. You might see the old guy out there doing the bus jump.
There we go. Well, we'll look forward to that, that's for sure. And Kirk, it's just been a blast having you on here tonight. And you can guarantee we're going to be calling you to get you on here again for a full hour. Just had a lot of fun with you, and we appreciate you doing this with us tonight, man.
Hey, you guys have a good one, and keep it going strong. Thanks for all you guys do for us.
There you go, fans. That was Kirk Dabney, a legend in monster trucks, no doubt a future Hall of Famer. And Kirk is still showing you that he can do big things here today, as he goes after that 100-mile-per-hour mark with Randy Moore. So, Chris, a lot of fun tonight. Randy Moore, Kirk Dabney, these guys got some big ideas, and they're definitely taking a different path here in monster trucks and keeping things interesting.
Oh, definitely, and they've got a lot of great things coming up, too. Obviously, they've given us some insight into their summer and what they've got going on through the rest of the year, and some big events, some big speed deals going on, and I'll be anxious to see them break into triple digits. I think that'll be a neat milestone for the sport, and I'd like to see these guys continue to develop this, because I just think it'll trickle down through the rest of the industry, and everybody will learn a little bit more about the trucks and be able to apply that to the rest of the industry.
Absolutely, and of course the big story of them teaming up for Monster Jam for next year, and Concussion Chassis, that seems to be what a lot of people are going after. They do some beautiful work over there at Concussion Motorsports, and the new Bigfoot's been turning heads, and Jocelyn Perrin's truck had most donuts at any truck in Monster Jam this year, and so those chassis are definitely performing, and it's going to be fun to see what one of those chassis with some of Randy and Kirk's ideas can do. And we're gonna have to get on the phone and try to convince Kirk to drive that thing in Monster Jam next year. I think the old man's still got some left in the tank. I'd like to see him at some of those stadium shows next year.
I think he's got some life, and it's a name that a lot of the old school monster truck fans will really love seeing out there. And I'd like to see what Kirk can do in a big venue like they'll probably see on the Monster Jam tour, because, man, Kirk just seems like a racer, and big open areas, I think it could be a lot of fun, but we'll just have to wait and see, and perhaps if we harass him enough over the next few months, he'll concede, and he'll give it a shot, as long as it doesn't affect his four-wheel drive business. I think it's great that he has really emphasized that he wants to go full into whatever he's doing and doesn't want to half-heart it.
Well, I think there's going to be a lot more stories involving Kirk Dabney before the year's over with, because there's the 100-mile-per-hour mark that they're going after, and I think they can do it, no doubt about it. But the other big thing is going to be this year, the International Monster Truck Museum and Hall of Fame has got a whole new process. The first year they'd inducted just the originals of the sport, who kind of kicked this thing off, the forefathers, and now this year a whole nominating process. Where they went out and got 25 people from all around the industry to be a part of the nominating committee to help pick the top 20 names to go on to a voting ballot that'll be sent out to the voting members of the museum. And I think Kirk's got a pretty strong shot at getting onto that ballot, because when you look at everything he's done in the industry, he's undoubtedly a future Hall of Famer, and it's going to be interesting to see if he makes the ballot for this year. And who knows, maybe even he might even get inducted in this year. Who knows?
Only time will tell. I know there's some big announcements coming up, but Kirk will be in there at some point in the future. There are just so many great names to get into the Hall of Fame, and so it'll take some time. But you've got to expect him in one of the first few classes with everything that he's provided and the longevity that he's had in the sport. And so it'll be exciting to see what the 2013 class for the Monster Truck Hall of Fame ends up looking like. But it's going to be great no matter what, and it's just a great way to celebrate all the history that has developed in this sport.
Well, as long as we are on that topic, it makes a perfect segue for next week's show, because the International Monster Truck Museum and Hall of Fame, they're going to have a booth out at the Lima Four-Wheel Jamboree Nationals. You can come on out and meet the president, Jeff Cook, and they're going to have two of the old-school trucks on display. They're going to have the booth set up there, and at the booth, starting on Friday, they are going to be announcing who made the 20-man ballot for this year's induction process. And so, to coincide with that, International Monster Truck Museum and Hall of Fame board member Army Armstrong will be joining us next Monday night right here on Monster Truck Radio to talk about the list of 20 and all the things going on with the Hall of Fame, and just tell some Army Armstrong stories. And that's going to be a ton of fun, because it seems like every time we've had Army Armstrong on Monster Truck Radio in the past, they always seem to be some of our most fun shows that we do, because Army is just great, and he's got so many great stories.
Army's just a character, and you bring that up, and that is definitely another name that I think we can expect to see in the Monster Truck Hall of Fame in the near future. It'd be great to see him on the ballot for this year, and maybe he'll make the class as well. But Army, always a great time to talk with him. He's got so many stories, and the man just loves to talk, but he's so entertaining to talk to. And so I think this will be the fastest 60 minutes of Monster Truck Radio perhaps we have ever encountered as host and co-host of the program. But we're going to have a heck of a time next week with Army, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely, and it only gets better, because the week after, Monday night after Memorial Day weekend, one of the guys that was right there sharing the mic with Army in the early days, and he's the voice of Monster Jam on Speed now. Scott Douglas will join us on Monday, May 28th, 2 weeks from today, and he's going to be telling us all about the big Monster Jam Path of Destruction Stadium Series that's going to get ready to start. It's 3 big weeks in a row with some East Coast cities, and that's going to be a lot of fun. The week after, we'll be previewing the Miami, Oklahoma O'Reilly Outlaw Nationals, which is always one of the biggest events we've filmed for TMB TV. And Don Cretan, driver of Scarlet Band, is going to join us for the first time ever on Monster Truck Radio. And we'll also have John Zimmer, who's now behind the wheel of the Excalibur, or at least going to be, as he's joined up with R.B. Moeller as part of the Mountaineer Motorsports team. Week after that, it just keeps getting better. Adam Anderson, driver of Gravedigger the Legend, he's going to be doing that Monster Jam Path of Destruction tour those 3 weeks. It's going to be right in the middle, and he'll be telling us how those big summer stadium shows are going. And then to promote a couple big open houses to close out June, the Patrick Enterprises, the Sampson Open House, which is always a great time, is going to be, I believe, June 23rd, I think is the date. And so the Monday before that, we'll have Dan Patrick himself. Boy, there's another guy who's probably going to make that ballot for the Hall of Fame list. And then June 25th, Jim Kramer, and there's a guy who's definitely going to be on that list, and he's going to be joining us to talk about the Bigfoot Open House that's coming up there. So, boy, great way to finish out Monster Truck Radio here for second quarter, and boy, it's just been a lot of fun having the show this year, Chris.
We've got a lot of great things coming up, and it just keeps growing and growing. There's no slacking or lacking shows out there. Every guest is just a great time so far, and the lineup is just stacked. And so I think we're going to keep the Lugnuts entertained for pretty much all the summer, and I'm sure we're working on third and fourth quarter schedules already, and we're going to continue that streak and bring on the guests that the fans want to hear.
Oh, absolutely. We've got some big things in store for third and fourth quarter, no doubt, and I think fans are going to be very excited to see some of the people we've been talking to about being on the show for third and fourth quarter. So Monster Truck Radio just going to keep on getting bigger and better the rest of the year, and boy, it's good to be back. You know, it's been a little crazy these past couple of weeks, but we should be all good to go here for the next few weeks, and we're just looking forward to all these great interviews coming up. Big thanks to all the folks who make it happen, E3 Spark Plugs and AmeriGas for their support of the program. Those guys are great. They've been great supporters of Monster Blog and Monster Truck Radio since we took it over, so a big thanks to them. TMB TV getting ready to come out with some big stuff. This past week we had the Chico, California Monster X Tour highlight video with all the biggest action, and then of course this week we're going to be dusting off the big episode featuring all the action, not just the highlights, so be sure to tune in for that. We just filmed the Springfield, Missouri Four-Wheel Jamboree Nationals episode, so that's going to be another big one coming up. Just stay tuned to monsterblog.com for all your Monster Truck news, information, and coverage, because that's where we know Monster Truck, and that's the home of Monster Truck Radio. We'll see you again, folks, right here next week with Army Armstrong, the legend himself, Monday, May 21st, 1 week from today, on Monster Truck Radio, presented by E3 Spark Plugs and AmeriGas. See all you lug nuts next week.